How's Crawford, his composure going to be like the moment a punch lands on him from Canelo?
Are you kidding me? Take that question back.
Yeah, why?
Because you're talking about Crawford.
Yeah.
He's
But in weight classes,
he's the most composed guy. Yeah. What, you don't think he'll be prepared? You think it'll be a shock to him? No.
He went on the rant with Teddy Atlas.
What's that mean?
He said you're the most overrated Mexican champion in history. He said that Salvador Sanchez.
Más
Popular, pero sin causa.
Fucking crazy, that guy. and you think he knows boxing? Fuck.
He's the most composed guy in his weight class, so you don't think he'd be ready. You think it would be a shock to him. No, he went on the ring with Teddy Atlas. And what does that mean? He said, you're the most overrated Mexican champion in history. You said that Salad Sanchez crazy, and you think he knows boxing. How will Crawford's composure be like when a punch from Canelo? Famous boxing trainer and analyst Teddy Atlas offered his thoughts on the eagerly awaited bout between Terence Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez in a recent episode of the Fight Podcast. Atlas, renowned for his keen insight and in-depth knowledge of the sport, examined the possibilities with both fighters, ranking among the top in their respective divisions. Clash highlights the distinct benefits and problems that each one brings to the ring. Atlas's analysis provides an intriguing viewpoint on what might be one of the year's most important boxing bouts.
Then we'll be more ready, but we're not. At the end of the day, the way that I made a decision based on whether or not I think I was right was that I had privately talked to the fighter, and he was a real fighter. He had the spirit of a fighter, the behavior of a fighter. He wasn't going to tell anyone no. He wasn't going to, because in their mind it's cowardly. In their mind, you're not being a fighter. You're breaking the code if you say you're not ready. So they shouldn't have to be the one. I don't think they should have to be the one to say. Just like if it's a tough fight and the guy's getting beat up.
We'll be more prepared then, but we're not. In the end, I decided whether or not I was correct after speaking with a fighter in private. He was a true fighter, and from what I could tell, he had the spirit of a fighter and the behavior of a fighter. He wasn't going to tell anyone that he wasn't ready because, in their opinion, it's cowardly to say that you're not ready, and you're breaking the code if you say you're not ready. So they shouldn't have to be the one to say that. For example, if it's a tough fight and a guy is being beaten up, the most anticipated bout between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford is creating a lot of excitement among boxing fans. It is anticipated that this possible super fight will occur at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas in late 2025, maybe around Mexican Independence Day in September, with Canelo holding the title of super middleweight and Crawford hoping to establish himself in a third weight class. The fight is expected to pit two pound-for-pound titans against one another.
In the May, I've read somewhere that Canelo has shortlisted Crawford for the May fight, his fight in May. Dan, what's happening?
Yeah, listen, I think it's just a fluid situation. I don't think there's anything definitive one way or the other at this point. I mean, it's not a secret that that's a fight that's been discussed by a lot of us and by a lot of people in the sport for quite a while. Certainly, it's a fight that Turki Al-Sheikh from Saudi Arabia has shown a lot of interest in. And of course, if it's going to get made, someone's going to have to put up a lot of guaranteed money. And he's probably the person that's going to do it. He's obviously been working closely with Terence Crawford. He was involved with Terence Crawford's last fight that took place in August when he fought Israel Madrimov. It's obviously a fight that Terence Crawford has been very vocal about wanting. Now, Canelo hasn't ever said he wanted the fight, kind of downplayed it to a certain degree. But it wasn't that long ago. I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, he was doing an appearance and he was asked about it and he didn't close the door on it. In the past, he sort of like closed the door on it and was like, I'm not interested. He's like, listen, I'll talk to anybody and listen to what they have to say about the deal, any kind of deal. So in my mind, that sort of at least cracked open the door to have the conversation. Like he wasn't just saying, forget it in terms of working with Turkey or anybody else. So I think that Canelo is a smart person in terms of his boxing, but also in terms of his business. And when he looks around at the landscape and he wants to make a huge amount of money, like all top fighters or any fighter for that matter, and he looks and sees, who can I fight where I can make the biggest score, in a big time fight?
In May, I've read that Canelo has shortlisted Crawford for his fight in May. Dan, what's going on? Well, I think it's just a fluid situation, and I don't think there's anything definitive at this point. It's no secret that Turki Al-Sheikh from Saudi Arabia has expressed a lot of interest in the fight, and if it's going to happen, someone will have to put up a lot of guaranteed money, and he's probably the one who will do it. He's clearly been working closely with Terence Crawford, as evidenced by his involvement in Crawford's most recent fight, which took place in August when he faced Israel Madrimov. Terence Crawford has been vocal about wanting this fight. Canelo has never explicitly stated that he wanted the fight, but he did kind of downplay it a few months ago when he was making an appearance, and someone asked him about it, instead of closing the door on it. He said something like, listen, I'll talk to anybody and listen to what they have to say about the deal or any kind of deal. In my opinion, that at least opened the door for a conversation because he wasn't just saying, forget it, as he looked around at the landscape, and he wants to make a significant sum of money like all top fighters or any fighter for that matter. by determining who he can fight and where he can make the biggest score in a big-time fight. One of the main elements, the weight disparity between Canelo and Crawford, is one of Atlas's highlights. Crawford has traditionally competed in lesser weight divisions, but in his most recent bouts, he has moved up to 154 pounds. Canelo, on the other hand, has been competing at higher weight classes, mostly 168 pounds super middleweight. Atlas is unsure if Crawford, who has fought at 154 pounds, could manage the massive jump to 168 pounds. He wonders if Crawford could handle Canelo's stature and strength at 168 pounds. Other boxing experts, like as Joe Rogan, have expressed similar worries.
No, I'm saying at once.
Right.
I'm saying I started at 135. Right. I'm just saying, like, say if Canelo was the champion at 147 to go up 168.
Right in one jump.
Yeah, in one jump.
It's a big jump too. 21 pounds. It's a lot of weight.
It's a lot.
No, I'm saying that I started at 135 MHM. I'm just saying that if Canelo had won at 147 MHM, he would have gone up directly in one jump. That's a large step too, and 21 pounds is a lot of weight. Additionally, Paulie Molini has expressed concerns about Terence Crawford's size, arguing that he may be too small to compete against Alvarez Mogi. Mogi believes that the substantial weight difference could be a problem for Crawford, particularly in light of Canelo's strength and physicality at the super middleweight division.
I think Crawford could beat Canelo Alvarez.
I think he's too small. But then again, I thought he was too small for Spence. So well, shows what I know. so I don't know. I think that's a lot of weight class jumping. We'll see. It's a good talking point. I don't know that would really happen. I mean, listen, we've seen some strange things in boxing. Don't get me wrong, especially in the recent years. So I don't say never, but I don't know how seriously that's going to be taken. But I think when you're at a level, when you come off a big win like Crawford just did, anything you say reverberates through the sport.
I believe it's a lot of class jumping, but I also believe that Crawford could defeat Canelo because he's too small. However, I also believe that he's too small for Spence, so that shows what I know. I don't know if that would actually happen, or don't get me wrong, we've seen some odd things in boxing, especially in recent years. So I don't say never, but I think that when you're at a level where you just won big, like Crawford did, everything you say has an impact on the sport. Edgar Berlango also thinks that Crawford's weight is the biggest obstacle in a possible fight with Alvarez Berlanga. He acknowledges Crawford's remarkable intelligence and skill, but stresses that Canelo's size, the super middleweight division's advantage, could be a deciding factor.
My good friend, my brother, Terence Crawford, wants to fight Canelo.
Yeah.
Just from your expert opinion, knowing how Canelo fights, what he's like in the ring, I know you haven't been in the ring with Terence, but what do you think of that fight?
I truly believe, that, anything can happen in boxing, you know what I'm saying? And Terence Crawford is a legend. He's great. He's a great fighter. The only thing I see that I favor Canelo is that his weight.
Yeah.
And that he's more bigger. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But as far as skill set wise, IQ, I feel like Crawford can match anybody and probably do way better. You know what I'm saying? But Crawford is a legend, bro.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't.
I know you haven't fought with Terence, but what do you think of that fight? I genuinely think you know that anything can happen in boxing. You understand what I mean, and Terence Crawford is a legend. He's great. He's a great fighter. The only thing I see is that he's a favor. My good friend, my brother Terence Crawford, wants to fight Canelo. Canelo's weight and size are the only things I'm mentioning. But in terms of skill set and IQ, I believe Crawford can compete with anyone and likely perform far better. You understand what I mean, though, and Crawford is a legend, so you can't count him out. You know what I mean? When Atlas considers the challenges Canelo may have in attempting to reach 160 pounds, which would be the optimal weight for Crawford to compete at, he observes that Canelo would probably be reluctant to drop to 160 pounds, especially at this point in his career.
Terence Crawford, I see he wants to fight. He's made it clear. Do fights like that help your legacy, or do you feel like that's something that's not worth it to you?
Everything in my career, every fight make my legacy different and better. No, Terence Crawford is a great fighter. He's a good fighter, but like I say, he's weight classes for a reason. I'm focused 100% on Berlanga, and you never know what happened.
Yeah.
Crawford. Terence Crawford is a great fighter, and he's a good fighter. But as I mentioned earlier, he's wearing weight glasses for a reason. I'm focused entirely on Onana, and you never know what might happen. I can see that he wants to fight, and he's made it clear. Do fights like that help your legacy, or do you feel that it's not worth it to you? Yes, but Atlas thinks Canelo would be reluctant to accept such terms given his established weight class dominance at 168 pounds. Atlas speculates that the fight might instead take place at a catch weight of 164 pounds. This weight issue is central to Atlas's argument because it could affect a fighter's ability to carry out their strategies and maximize their strengths. Atlas also talks on Crawford's adaptability and how, in spite of Canelo's size advantage, it could work to his favor. Crawford is renowned for his versatility in the ring and his ability to move between southpaw and orthodox stances, making him a difficult opponent for anyone. Atlas notes that one of Crawford's strongest EST traits is his adaptability, which includes his capacity to change and alter mid-fight. Although Atlas is not quick to discount Canelo's chances, he acknowledges that Canelo has tremendous power, especially in his hands, and that Crawford would need to be extremely cautious to avoid Canelo's devastating punches. He believes that Crawford's movement angles and ability to outsmart his opponents could be crucial against someone like Canelo who heavily relies on his strength and power. Atlas mentions Canelo's devastating right hand, which he has used to win fights, and says Crawford would need to be able to avoid those shots while using his own skill set to outmaneuver Canelo. Crawford would also need to be able to control the fight's pace and avoid power punches if they were to face off. Teddy Atlas also made interesting analogies between Manny and Terence Crawford. Both fighters have a distinct blend of technical skill and aggressive style, making Crawford a contemporary equivalent of the renowned Pac-Man. Pacquiao. Atlas emphasized Crawford's remarkable footwork, speed, and ability to close the distance on his opponents, much like Pacquiao did in his prime.
I think he wins with everybody, and I agree with the two champions. I think he wins right now with the guys that are there. He carries his power well. He's moved up 3 weight classes. This will be the 4th weight class. He's carried his power with him. Punches are born, they're not made. You have power, you carry it with. Pacquiao, we forget about a guy like that. He used to be a jockey riding horses, and the next thing you know, he goes bantamweight, he goes lightweight, he goes welterweight, he goes junior. I mean, you know, he just kept going up. And what did he do? He carried his power, and he carried his speed, obviously, as the smaller man. Crawford carries his speed, he carries his power, and the most important thing is what's inside of Crawford. He's a special guy. He doesn't believe you can beat him. And it's hard to beat a guy who doesn't believe you can beat him.
I concur with the two champions and believe he wins with everyone. We forget about a guy like Pacquiao, who used to be a jockey riding horses, and then he goes from bantamweight to lightweight to welterweight to junior. I think he wins right now with the guys that are there because he carries his power well. He has moved up 3 weight classes, and this will be the 4th. He clearly carries his speed and power with him. Crawford possesses both speed and power, but more importantly, he is a unique individual who doesn't think you could defeat him on any other occasion. It's difficult to defeat someone who doesn't think you could defeat him. Teddy Atlas said Crawford brings a different dimension to the fight. Atlas elaborated on this by highlighting Crawford's ability to adapt and strategize in real time, making him a versatile and unpredictable opponent. He praised Crawford's exceptional ring IQ, footwork, and ability to seamlessly switch between orthodox and southpaw stances. According to Atlas, these attributes set Crawford apart from other fighters and present unique challenges that even seasoned champions like Canelo Alvarez would find difficult to overcome. Atlas emphasized that Crawford's mental toughness and tenacity add an extra layer of complexity to his fighting style, making him a formidable contender in any matchup. In addition, Atlas is concerned about the psychological and physical toll that years of elite competition can take on a fighter. He discusses how, although Canelo has a wide and impressive record, fighters, especially those who have been active for a long time like him, may undergo wear and tear that could hinder their effectiveness in future battles. Atlas points out that a fighter's career lifespan is always in doubt, particularly after suffering as much abuse as Canelo. This is an important point because it gives Crawford the opportunity to take advantage of any indications that Canelo's skill level is deteriorating.
Not for me.
And you believe he'll even beat Crawford, right? I think you've said that before.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it'd be very interesting. It'd be very interesting. I love Crawford. It'd be very interesting. Crawford is, you know, he brings a different dimension to it. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's tall and long, stepped up in weight classes, you know, and a guy who's a winner, a guy who's dynamic, but a guy who goes about his business in a different way, where he controls range, where, you know, he looks to set traps. But then he believes too, Crawford. That's what makes that would be an intriguing fight for me, because that son of a gun, he believes too. When it gets down to it, to being a junkyard dog, man, he could bite with the best of them. Because you try to take something from him, he'll say, you know what? I like to control range. I like to be out of here. I like to counter. I like to have it my way, just like you guys like to have a buffet and all things. When I hope he put some food out for you guys.
Not for me, but you think he might even be Crawford? I believe you've stated that before. So yes, this will be really fascinating. I adore Crawford, so it will be fascinating. Crawford, as you may know, adds a different dimension to it. I mean, you're talking about a tall, long man who has advanced in weight classes, a winner and a dynamic guy, but he conducts himself differently, controlling range and, you know, looking to set traps before leaving. When it comes to being a trunk yard dog man, Crawford likes to believe that he can bite with the best of them. If you try to take anything from him, he will say, you know what, I like to control range. I like to be out of here. I like to counter. I like to have it my way just like you guys like to have a buffet and all that, which is why I think that fight would be interesting.